Hi, my name is Missey Hernandez, and this is my Disposition video. After taking the Disposition self-assessment survey, I realized that I do agree with all the disposition, but I strongly possess 3 of the disposition that makes me a successful teacher. I promote and support curiosity and encourage active learning. As you see, my classroom has a Harry Potter theme, and I encourage my students to be creative, make connections to the real world, even with the fictional stories they are reading. In my class, I do integrated units where students connect their learning from math, science, social studies, and language arts. For instance, while reading the Harry Potter Sorcerer's Stone, we make potions, but in reality, my students, they do science experiments to understand mixture and effects of combining substances. With the science aspect, my students had to connect these science experiments on how colonists used it during the colonial America. They were expected to understand, to make connections to chemistry, how it's used in everyday life, even in their life, but also in the colonial America. I also believe that all students can learn, and that it is my responsibility to provide realistic expectations to support their success. Every trimester, I meet with all my students one-on-one to discuss their strengths and what are the areas they need to work on. They are expected to set 2 goals they think they need to work on, and that can help them succeed in the classroom. These goals could be academic goals or a personal goal, and then we brainstorm ideas on what things they can do to help them reach these goals. For example, one of my students' goals is to improve his reading fluency so he can have better comprehension. He shared with me that most of the assignments and homework are difficult for him, and that his parents cannot support him because they don't speak English, nor they could write in English. So after speaking with him about this, I was able to offer him an after-school intervention so I can help him with his goals. I modified his assignments as well, so he can focus on doing quality assignments instead of not worrying about how much assignments he can do, and so he can turn it in. Another disposition that I think I strongly possess is that I am committed in teaching and learning. I am always actively part of my students' learning process. I often participate in educational learning that my district offer, and always collaborating with fellow teachers and seeking advice, learning new trends from new teachers. The disposition I need to work on to grow as an educator to be sensitive to individual learning and social needs of my students, and embrace the cultural diversity of the community. I do embrace cultural diversity of the community and sensitive to individuals' learning, but I think I still need to work on this disposition, because even though I embrace it, I think sometimes I neglect to act on it. For example, every year I have at least one student that has a challenging behavior, and many times I tolerate it because I can. I have high tolerance for students with difficult behaviors because I have personal experience with my son. But sometimes I neglect to think about how my students or the other students feel. I need to pay closer attention to their needs, needs of all my students, and not ignore certain behaviors because it may be affecting them. What I need to do is to talk to my school counselor and help me develop a plan on how I can address the behavior in a positive way. Just because I can tolerate it, it doesn't mean that the rest of my students can. What does a professional educator look like, and how do they behave? Well, I think professional educator possesses a high respected values, who is committed to the profession and to the students, and practices good ethics, and that shows how they treat or respond towards students, families, and to the community. A professional educator is also a lifelong learner who is always actively learning, They set high expectations for their students, respect the individuality among their students, colleagues, and families. Also, professional educators should know that reflecting on their practices and experiences helps them become a better educator and use it to improve themselves. The professional disposition should help guide them with their thinking and actions.